tour, coming at you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hello, world. How are you today? This evening or this morning, wherever you are. Hello to my friends in Tulsa. Hello to my friends in India, in Australia, and all over the world. Hope you're doing well tonight. I got myself some tea. I got my vape, and let's get into this, shall we? Let's get into this. The Marksman. The Marksman, starring Liam Neeson, the star of those B movie action movies that are quite decent. They're decent to watch. He's entertaining. He can carry a whole movie by himself. He's a legendary actor, almost, I would say, in the ranks of Clint Eastwood. And yeah, Krishna, what's up? Oh, you got done with your cricket, eh? Well, I'm glad to hear that you're getting your game on, practicing. It's the thing you want to do. So, congrats for you. Appreciate that, my friend. Thank you very much. I had a great birthday with family. I got my tres leches cake. That's my one thing that I require. I got to get my tres leches cake. That's all I need for my birthday. I don't need anything special. Got lots of love this time around. Got lots of gifts, surprisingly. Was not expecting all the gifts that I got, but I really appreciate it, that I got from everybody and all the birthday wishes. So let's get into it. The Marksman. Have you seen it, Krishna? Have you seen The Marksman? It's currently on Netflix. There's a bunch of movies that came out recently. A bunch of new movies that I gotta watch and do reviews. I think this is gonna be like my new thing. Is every once in a while post my art stuff, post my vlogs, my live chats, and then movie reviews. It's like right up my alley, right? I'm a filmmaker. I should be able to do movie reviews. Um, I have diagnosed with sugar. You have diagnosed with sugar? What does that mean, my friend? That's got me a little worried. Um, but let's. I'm gonna get into it. So I watched it. I enjoyed it. It's a decent movie. It's actually got a. What up, Adam? Adam Ali, welcome. Welcome to the live movie review of The Marksman. I'll be talking about it here in a second. But yeah, it's a decent movie. It's a movie you can watch one time and enjoy it. I don't think people are gonna watch it over and over and over, but I like it. I like the movie. I wouldn't put it in the top movies that I like and love, but it's decent. It's watchable. It's entertaining. It's a heartwarming. It's got heartwarming moments. The character arc is not like a tremendous arc, but it does have a decent arc. The story itself, I mean, it hits all the points, all the plot points, all the everything that you see in a movie that's structured. It's all there. They did a really good job. But I will say this: it did remind me the way it was shot. It did have a little bit more cinematic elements, but it did remind me of like something that was filmed in the realm of like a Breaking Bad episode. It just reminded me of the tone and everything. It kind of reminded me of that. It didn't strike me as a very cinematic movie. It struck me more as a very cookie cutter movie. Um, what's up? Ram Ranch really rocks. It's funny. I get that a lot, and honestly, I don't see the resemblance. I really don't, but I get that a lot, surprisingly. Maybe with the beard these days, but I don't see it. I don't see it. Um, but okay, so back to the movie. What I was saying is, and surprisingly enough, in the movie, I did find a lot of things that were questionable. Like that didn't really make a whole lot of sense, or oh, that's very coincidental. Or for instance, this shot didn't match the shot prior. Like for example, I'll just put these out there before I go over the plot. Like there's a scene where the boy is walking the dog, and there's moments where he has a leash with the dog, and suddenly he doesn't have the leash, and suddenly he has the leash. Then when he gets back to the truck where Liam is at, he doesn't have a leash. Like he doesn't. It's not in his pocket. It's just nowhere to be found. So I found that to be like, oh, somebody messed up there. There's another instance where, for example, oh, you quit cricket, Krishna. You quit cricket. How come? Let me know, and I'll keep talking about the movie. Um, Another instance, you have the woman, the mom of the child, who scratches her leg, and they run into Liam, and she's got her pants rolled up where you can see the big scar on her leg, and then the next cut, the leg pants are down. Just little things that me as a filmmaker I catch that a lot of audience members would probably miss because the movie has a really fast pace. It has a fast pace. Things move pretty quickly. The action is pretty quick. The story moves along pretty quickly. But like I said, there's things that I find that are just not consistent and too coincidental. And there was another moment that was interesting. You had the main bad guy, they call him Jefe, um, part of the cartel, where he goes into a gas station. He's like fiddling with a knife, and he kills the gas attendant, the person there attending the gas station, but he doesn't use the knife. He just shoots her, and it's like you're kind of like, okay, why did you show us the knife? Like, if he's playing fiddling with a knife, why did you show us that? Well, I guess it's just to show us that he's got a knife because he does eventually use it. But it's like, okay, I mean, you show us the knife and he doesn't use it. It's kind of like, okay, okay, whatever. So those were the kind of little inconsistencies that I saw that were a little weird. Um, but let's start from the beginning of the movie. Let's see if I can get it down from memory. I'll do my best. So the movie starts out in Mexico, and it's centered around this boy. Starts out, you see this boy. He's eating gummy bears, very innocent, and he's walking along. And this is a very small town in Mexico, and you see this truck drive by, and it's filled with like gunmen. And so you already know this is like a town that has like cartel or something. Something is up. You just automatically know. And so he's a very sweet, innocent boy. The first thing he does is like he leaves a little love note to his crush, and goes back home and does his homework. And he's living with his mom, a single mom, and she seems like a really like like just a normal good mom. Like there's nothing bad about her. And then we're sucked into the action immediately. So the boy's name is Miguel, and his uncle. Uh, we don't know what yet in the movie, but he did something towards the cartel that made the cartel really upset where they like they're hunting him down. And so he calls his sister Rose, which is the boy's mom, and he's like, hey, listen, you got to get out of there. The cartel's after me, and they're going to try to make an example by hurting my family. You guys have to leave immediately. And that's like the last thing we really hear about him. And so the mom is like, we got to go. So they just like, I guess they pack a few things and they leave. Then we cut to the guy Carlos. He's the uncle of the boy, and he's tied up like this, and they're underneath like a highway, and he's been bleeding out, and they're going through his phone. And one of the guys says, "What are we going to tell Angel?" We never see Angel. We don't ever meet him, but Angel's apparently like probably one of the main cartel bosses, right? So you have this guy named, but they call him Jefe. He's a soldier essentially for the cartel. And so initially they're like, what are we gonna do? And the Jefe is like, oh, we're gonna find it, all right. And so one of the guys is like goes like this, and they kill Carlos, right? And so and then it goes to the title, the Marksman, and then it cuts to Liam. His name in the movie is Jim Hansen. He plays an American, so he doesn't have like that typical Liam Neeson accent. He does a good job of keeping an American accent. So we cut to him. He's out in Arizona by the border. He's got a ranch there, and he sees a wolf that's like gnawing on one of his like baby cows or whatever, like a calf or something. And so he pulls out his rifle. He's the marksman. And he looks through the scope and he sees like a coyote or something like chewing at his cow, and he shoots it. And he walks up to it with his dog Jackson, and then he spots like six like illegal immigrants like in the distance on his land, kind of walking across. And so he's got a radio and he calls in Border Patrol. He's like, "Hey, Border Patrol, there looks like to be like 5 or 6, illegal immigrants, walking around on my ranch, like half a mile away from the border." So he calls him in. He walks towards that area and sees that there's one of them has been left behind because he's hurt. He's really dehydrated. He's got a hurt leg, and so he gives him water. He radios in, go ahead and bring a medic with you. So then after that, it cuts to, let's see, because there's so much that happens. Let me see if I can remember this correctly. After that, um, let's see. Oh, he drives back to his ranch, and so that's when we discover that he's got a ranch, and he's like, he's back at his house. He's got an American flag, and he gets visited by in this like fancy Cadillac. It's a banker. It's one of the bankers there in the area, and he tells Jim that because he doesn't have a phone, they've been trying to reach him, and so I mean, I guess they could have sent him a letter, but I guess that's another thing that's kind of inconsistent. He just shows up and tells him, "Listen, you're 6 months behind payments on the house, and the bank has every right to put your house on auction in 90 days. And the bank also will accept any offer, any real offer from anyone during that 90-day period." So Jim is kind of like, "Damn, like I'm losing my house." Like there's a moment where he looks over to a hill, a little rocky hill, and there's a cross, and he says, "That's where I spread the ashes to my wife." You know, um, I'm not sure why he says that, like why that's exposition is there, but it's just a moment for Jim to be like, "Okay, this is like I've been here my whole life. I even spread the I guess he's trying to say like this is my place. This is my land. I spread the ashes of my wife like right over there. You're telling me I'm getting kicked off my land." So, he's a little peeved. And so he goes to this guy he knows, I guess, who builds houses, and he's asking for a job, and they're like full. And it's funny because he looks over, they're all Mexicans, and he's just like, "Man, I can't get a job. Like this is ridiculous." So then he goes to like a fellow rancher to try to sell his cattle, like the rest of his cattle, and they're all like skinny. They're not really well fed. So essentially, he offers them a low number, which 17 grand isn't that low of an offer, but I guess in terms of cattle and stuff, I guess it would be if the cattle isn't like really, they're not like, they're really skinny. They don't look healthy. So like I guess that's a low number. Yeah, Jim asked for like 20 grand. He's like, "No, I can't do that. These cattle are just, they're not that high of value. I won't be able to make money." So he's kind of agitated, and he ends up at a bar, um, and he gets the bar attendant calls Sarah, and Sarah is, it's never really clear who Sarah is to Jim. Like we know there's a daughter father relationship, but we don't know if it's like his actual daughter, or if it's somebody that like he married somebody and that was the daughter of the woman he married, right? So it's not very clear because there's moments where like she calls him Pops. There's other moments that she calls him Jim, and I find that strange to call your father by their first name. So, and plus the relationship, it's funny because like Jim's losing the house, right? And like he lost his wife recently to cancer. That's revealed. Like and he had like all these hospital bills, and that's why he's behind in payments. And so he's at the bar, but like throughout the movie, I'm asking myself, why doesn't Sarah help him? Like if it's supposed to be his daughter, why doesn't he help him? Like that would make a lot of sense, right? And in no real way does she actually help him, right? So I found that strange. But initially, she does care about him, right? He like cares for his health and whatnot. But essentially, she goes to pick him up at the bar because she doesn't want him to be drinking and whatnot. And from the looks of it, it's been a long while since he drank alcohol. So he's like getting back into drinking. And throughout the whole movie, he drinks and drinks and drinks until a certain point he like changes and stops drinking, right? That's his like part of his character arc. There's more to that. So essentially, she takes him back home, and we see like the movie does a great job of throwing us details without like telling us and just being straightforward and be like, oh, this is what I do. Here's some exposition. Sometimes they throw exposition in there. It's like in your face, but not most of the time. It's just sprinkled here and there. But essentially, she takes Jim back home, and the following morning, he's driving his truck, but we saw his truck at the bar. So it's kind of like, well, how did he pick it up? Like, when did he pick up the truck? Like, did he go back walking with the dog and he picked it up? So they never really explained how he got his truck back. He just magically had his truck back the following morning. So I found that kind of inconsistent. But essentially, he's driving along the border. There's no real reason. He's just driving, and Miguel and the mom, they have this guide who are helping the mom and boy sneak in to the United States through the border fence. But the guide sees a black like SUV, and he realizes that's like the cartel. So he gets freaked out. He starts like running out of there. He's like, "No, I can't help you anymore. Like if I get caught, they're gonna kill me." S- So he abandons the mom and boy, but tells the mom and boy, "Hey, listen, by that bush up ahead, like to the right, there's a little cutout. You just got to find it and you can get through the fence." And so they're like, okay, okay. So the mom and boy go to the fence. They find they're getting a little like freaked out because the cartel actually spots them. They're kind of far away, but they start driving their direction. So they're freaking out. They're like, hurry up, find the little hole in the fence. We got to get out of here. So eventually they find the cutout and they're able to move this section of the border, and they get through the fence, and the mom gets a cut on the leg. That's where she gets her cut. And they like they're getting through the wall, and they're like walking, like running across the road, and that's where Jim almost hits the boy. He like slams the brake, and there's the boy standing there in shock, like, holy shit, I almost got ran over. And Jim is like, holy crap. So he notices that the mom has a cut on her leg, right? He like steps out of the truck and is like, wait, 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 wait. Like if you go out there like that, you're never gonna make it, because you're bleeding out. You're just never gonna make it. Let me get you some help. And the mom is like, well, we don't want any trouble. Like we don't want border patrol. And Jim is like, well, I gotta radio in border control. I gotta call this in. You're illegals. I'm not a smuggler. I'm not gonna smuggle you in. I'm not going to help you in that way. So the mom is like saying, no, please, no, please, no. But eventually he calls in Border Patrol. He's like, listen, I have two illegals crossing. And he gets a call back saying, well, we heard you, but we're really tight right now. We're really busy, like doing like in a different part of the fence and dealing with other stuff. So it'll be a few before we get there. So before anything else can happen, the cartel shows up on the other side of the wall, right? You got that big fence that's like, you know, that's like dividing them, right? And so the main guy, the jefe, walks out and he starts speaking Spanish. He calls him old. He's like, old man. He's like, I'm here for the woman and the man. And Jim is like, speak English, please. And so with a really funny, thick accent, right? Like Mexican accent, the jefe starts speaking. Like, listen, I'm here for the man and the boy. And Jim is like, well, the thing is, these are legal. These illegals are mine, and you're not taking them. And he's got a good sense that it's like the cartel. He like can figure it out. It's like they're not a very. They seem like a malice entity, right? So he kind of puts two and two together. That's the cartel. But Hefe's not letting up. He's like, I need to get the boy and the girl. I'm like a soldier, and this is my duty, right? Because they're talking. Jim is like, yeah, I'm not really border patrol, but I'm a Marine Corps guy. And so that's why Hefe is like, yeah, I'm a soldier too, and I have my orders. And Jim is like, listen, it's not worth it. Like, don't even think about doing anything, because he's right now he's holding his rifle with the scope on it. And so, at that point, a shootout breaks out, And at this point, we're like 15, 18 minutes into the movie. This is the true inciting incident of the movie, right? So he shoots the brother of Hefe and kills him. And there's a big shootout, and like they run out of bullets. The cartel runs out of bullets. The Hefe like crawls through the little hole through the wall, runs towards the truck, and jumps on the bed before they can like make their way out. And so Jim is driving his truck, trying to make his way out. You got the mom and the boy inside, and suddenly you look over to the mom, and she's got a big, like, bleeding bullet wound coming from her chest. And so you're like, "Oh, damn, they got her," you know? And so the main cartel guy, uh, cool, Krishna, cool, cool. I'm just telling the plot line here of the Marksman. So the main cartel guy's in the back of the truck bed. He's trying to make his way. He makes his way to the front where Jim is driving, and he like grabs him. He's trying to like choke him out. But Jim slams the brakes, and the Hefe goes flying through the air forward, and he like rolls on the ground, and cuts his face. And Jim gets out of there as quick as possible. And I'm sure they don't really show how far away he got, but they cut to him slamming the brakes, and they put the mom out on the ground, and she's bleeding out from her chest and like dying. And so this is like the part of the structure in the movie where the hero of the movie is offered a journey, and this is where typically the hero turns it down, and in this fashion he does. In a way, the mom is like, mom's dying, and she's got like, she hands Jim this little paper note that's got an address. It's got her blood on it. It says Chicago, and she's like, please take my son here. This is where we need to go for safety. You can have all the money that I have, right? And Jim isn't really, he's like, he's not really thinking about doing that. He's just gonna wait for Border Patrol. They show up. It's like it's later into the evening. Um, Man, your parents are being really rough on you, huh, Krishna? Being really rough on you. Oh, sorry about that, Krishna. Yeah, you got it. It's hard when the people closest to you that are supposed to be people who lift you up and are like your loving guardians give you so much negativity. You have to realize that you don't have to accept those words. You can it's your choice to accept what they say or don't accept what they say. If you accept what they say, then you know you're you're giving them, like, I don't know, credibility, right, to what they're saying. But if you don't accept what they say and you truly believe that you're not, that in your heart that maybe maybe you're not quite where you need to be, or you're still struggling. Life is a struggle. Everyone struggles in life, but it's your job to do better and be better. But don't listen to the negativity. Stay in the positive. YouTube's a very interesting place. But back to, I'm really sorry to hear that, but I'm gonna go on with the plot. Um, so it's evening. Border Patrol shows up, and they take the mom. It's like she's like in a body bag, and it's like a big mess, right? The boys in the hands of Border Patrol, and there's Sarah. It seems like Sarah has like a really high position in Border Patrol. It's never really explained what she does or what position she has, but it seems like she's got a really high position there. And so one thing that happens there at that moment, Jim asks one of the Border Patrols that's been talking to the boy. He goes, "What did he say?" And the Border Patrol guy says, "Well, he blames you for the death of the mother, because if you didn't get in the way, she'd still be alive." And so that guilt really weighs down on Jim. He's like, "Damn, like that's harsh." And it's like it's true in a way. So he ends up, Sarah tells him he's got to go to the station for a statement. So it does like a fade away, and it fades away to him in the truck. like him leaving the border patrol station. It's like in the middle of the night, and he goes to his truck and he falls asleep. And when he wakes up the following day, he wakes up there at the parking lot, and the border patrol. Um, Krishna says, "I think to make a movie explanation channel. What about it? Oh, like you mean like a separate channel, or do you want to make a channel? If you want to make a channel, you do it, brother. You do it." But for me though, I think I don't want to make another channel and just like keep having different channels. I like having the one, and I just explore different things, you know. But essentially, back to the movie plot, Jim, he wakes up at the parking lot, and by coincidence, another coincidence. But you know, movies are all about coincidences. He wakes up and he sees, like across the border, he sees that same black SUV, and he kind of recognizes the people in there. He can tell it's the cartel. So he's like, very interesting, like very suspicious. And then he looks down over to his seat, like underneath there, and he spots his mom, the kid's mom's bag, and he looks inside, and there's like all this cash, you know. Oh heck yeah, Krishna! So you want to make videos? I see. Yeah, go for it, man. Why not? You know, it's something I enjoy. It's something that I enjoy. You know, throughout this whole year, I've been hitting YouTube pretty hard, and you know, growing my channel, and I'm only 25 subscribers away from hitting that 1,000 mark. And that 1,000 mark is a pretty tough mark to hit. It's kind of like one of the first goals to hit, to being accepted into like the first. They give you more things that you can do on YouTube. So like the more subscribers you get, the more access to tools and other things. Like I think once I hit 1,000 and a certain amount of watch time hours, I'm like I have the availability to sell products on the channel. So that's kind of what I'm working towards. Um, but anyways, yeah, back to the movie. So he sees the cartel, he sees the bag of money, and he actually doesn't even think about the boy. He just like drives off, and he's driving off, and that's when the guilt and his consciousness weighs down on him. He keeps like the what the mom said is like repeating in his mind, how like she's like, please help my son, please, you know, get him to Chicago, please, you can take all the money for doing this, right? So like his consciousness is really, his conscious is really weighing down heavy. So he like turns the truck around, and he's like, all right, you know, I have the money, you know, you know, I might as well, you know, the cartel's there waiting for him. They can kill him. So he's like, I might as well do this. You know, he just kind of like, he's like, all right, I accept it. You know, and that's part of movie structure. You know, in a lot of movies, the main character won't ever accept the offer to the journey. It takes them a while to like choose to actually do it. And so, true to movie structure, the movie nails it. You know, but essentially, so he turns around, goes back to the border patrol office, and he goes in there and is like, he's like, he sees one of the, like, there's a little desk there, and he talks to one of the people there. He's like, "Can I talk to the boy?" And the guy's like, "Well, that's impossible. That's not going to happen, you know." And he's asking questions like, "What's going to happen to him?" And so the guy tells him, "Well, apparently there's a relative in Mexico that's there to pick him up." But Jim is like, "Oh, that's the cartel waiting for him. They're gonna pick him up and kill him." So he's like, "No." In his head, he's like, "That's not gonna happen." So he tells the border patrol officer, "Hey, listen." He's like, "You know, let me go see the boy. It's okay, because Sarah said it was okay." And so he's like, "Do you want to call her up?" And the guy's like, "No, I don't want to talk to her." He's like, "Yeah, go ahead and go talk to the boy." So Sarah has like a lot of power. She's got a high position in the border patrol, but again, it's never explained like what position she actually has in this border patrol thing. But apparently, it's a very high power. So saying that, the patrol guy's like, "Okay, yeah, go ahead and talk to the boy for a few minutes, whatever." So Jim goes back there, sees the boy, and tells the boy, "Listen, we got to get out of here because they're gonna kill you. You know, I got to get you safe." So the boy follows him, and so Jim sneaks him out through a back door, and they get out there. And by this time, I would say this is where Act Two starts, really picks up. So we have Jim who pretty much takes the kid out of Border Patrol, sneaks him out. They get in the truck and they leave. And the cartel sees this. The jefe, the guy who's been like trying to track down the mom and dad and capture them, he sees this. So he tells his people, he's like, we gotta cross the border. We gotta go across now. We gotta go after them. So so Jim and the kid now are on the road. They stop for a burger, and they also where did they stop? They stop for a burger, and then they stop somewhere else. Let me give it some thought because there's so much that happens in this movie. Um, I'm trying to think. Oh, the gas station. They stop at a gas station, and he asks the girl attendant there. It's like, "Do you sell an atlas, like a book of maps?" And she's like, "What's an atlas?" And it's funny because back in the day, when I used to travel a lot with my dad and my parents, and as a family, we always bought atlases at gas stations, and I would always be the one with the map, like helping guide my dad to drive. It was so different from GPS. But I'll never forget that. It's an old school thing to do. And Jim, this character Jim that Liam plays, he's the kind of character that doesn't like having a phone, so he doesn't have GPS. He has to go old school. But anyways, he gets to this gas station, gets the Atlas, and you see there's a shot where he uses the credit card, and so the cartel people, what they do is they actually drive, because before the blue truck drives off, the cartel sees the license plate number off the truck. It's a very quick shot, and if you didn't really think about it, you wouldn't know how they made the connection of how they found his house. But I'm assuming that's how they found his house. So they go to his house, and they break in. They look around. Hefe he sees a little a gold star that the military gets for their service if like they get shot or wounded or whatever. And in the line of duty, they get like a gold star, right? So he takes that, and he looks around for some mail, and he takes like some mail with him. And at that point, you're like, you don't really know why he took the mail, but it's obvious because, like, if you're going to track somebody, you're going to take their like credit card information, right? If they're driving around state to state, they're going to be using a credit card, right? So he figures he takes the bank information. So he takes the bank information, and they they head back to the border to cross it. And what's crazy is they use fake, not fake, but like they use passports, like American passports that are clearly not them. But I guess the border patrol, it's like corrupt, and so the cartel people show their tattoos, and the police officers sees the tattoos and realizes who they are, sees the passports, and they realize and sees that it's not them, but he's like pretending to be like, oh, these are fine, okay, you're good to cross. And so he lets the cartel people, they cross the border. um, so eventually Jim's truck is leaking radiator fluid. And so he's driving along, and the car starts to smoke. So he has no choice but to stop. And so this is where the cartel has a chance to like catch up to him, right? He's got to spend some time fixing the truck and whatnot. So he goes to this place called Otto's shop. It's an old man. He's got a mechanic shop in this small town, and I think they're in New Mexico. And so he's talking to the old man. He's like, how, can you fix this? And the old man's like, yeah, it'll take a couple days. Jim is like, I don't have a couple days. He's like, can you just patch it up for me? And the guy says, okay. And he says, I'll see you tomorrow. And Jim is like, what, tomorrow? Like, I need it fixed now. He's like, no, it's closing time at 6 o'clock. So he's got no choice but to stay the night there. And so this is where where the cartel has time to catch up to him, right? So the cartel, they make their way to, they're in Arizona, and there's a house in the suburbs where it's like a cartel house. You got like a bunch of people with guns. There's a guy there with a computer with like double screens and can do like research. And I guess he does research on the bank information that he got from the house. And by the way, they end up burning the house, you know. So they do that as well. So, it's going to take a minute for the computer guy to figure out where they are, but essentially Jim and the boy, they go to a restaurant, and this is where he calls the bank to tell them, because of the money that he has now, he's like pretty sure he's going to be able to pay off the debt and get his house back. Little does he know it was totally burned up to ashes, right? So he calls the bank and he's like, "Yeah, I have money I can pay. I'll be in the bank in a few days, right?" Um, so, anyways, they're there. The boy and Jim, they're like having dinner, and they just kind of open up about each other. Like Jim is like asking him questions like, "Why are you guys running?" And the boy says, "Well, my uncle did something bad towards the cartel, and now they want to like kill us all." That's all he knows. He doesn't know that there's money involved. Not at this point, but he finds out later. So they talk, and then Jim gets drunk, and he like passes out in the truck. That's where he sleeps. And the boy, I guess, doesn't go to sleep. I don't know. He spends like the night walking the dog around town, like the dog that Jim has, Jackson, that's been there the whole time. Um, so he's like walking around and whatnot. And this is what I said earlier, the inconsistencies that I saw in some of the shots. This is one of them. In some scenes, you had the boy walking, like some shots, you had the boy walking the dog with a leash, and then other shots, there was no leash at all. No, the boy was Mexican. It's a Mexican boy. His name is Miguel. Lou Boy is asking, was the boy black? This is a story that takes place in Arizona on the border. It's got to do with the cartel, and all that, and a Mexican running for their lives because one of the family members stole money from the cartel. So, anyway, jumping back to the story where I was, so the boy spends the night walking around with the dog. But like I said, there's this weird inconsistency where on one shot he's got the leash on the dog, another shot he doesn't, and another shot he does. So I don't know why the inconsistency there, or how they could have made that mistake, or if they even thought that it mattered. But it's kind of distracting. It's a little distracting. But anyways, so the boy makes it back to the car. He bought food for them both, and Jim like wakes up. And he's like, "Okay, cool." Um, then we cut to the cartel, and the computer guy in the cartel house is like, he finds out that he spent his credit card at the auto mechanic place, right? So the cartel, like, they immediately had to hit the road, right? And I think they're somewhere at this point, either in New Mexico or making their way like towards Texas. That's kind of very clear. So they drive towards that direction, and so what happens next? So much happens in the movie. I mean, there's never a dull moment. But I'm trying to remember what happens. They're on the road. They're talking. You know, they talk a little bit. The boy finally says something in English, and Jim is like, "Oh, you do speak English? Okay, so you've been hiding that from me." The boy doesn't want to be in the States. He wants to go back home to Mexico. He's pretty upset that his mom died. A lot of mixed emotions there. I mean, I'm talking about the Marksman. It's a decent movie, but like I said, there's a lot of moments in the film where it's like they messed up the shots. Like, if there's inconsistencies, somebody messed up and shooting the movie. Like I said, it happens so quick that you just, like, for me, I'm a filmmaker, so I catch it. But I think audiences, they wouldn't catch it at all. They wouldn't even notice. Um, so So the I think I missed a step. Yeah, I did. See, there's so much that happens that I forgot one scene. The cartel, um, the first credit card charge they notice is the credit card charge of the gas station. So they go to the gas station first, and where he spent his credit card, right? So they go to the girl that was there, and the jefe. This is another inconsistency that I thought was weird. The jefe goes towards the gas station with a knife in his hand that he's twirling around, and so you think he's going to use it. So he goes to this girl and is asking questions. She's being a little, what you would call, not very cooperative with him. So he goes behind the counter and like pretty much kills her, but instead of using a knife, he shoots her. So again, that's what I mean by inconsistent. They show you a knife, but he doesn't slice her with the knife. He shoots her. So I thought that was kind of weird, or But essentially, he watches the video camera tape. He like rewinds it and watches it and sees the truck go east. So now he knows to go that direction, right? So they're on the tail. They're tracking him down. At one point, what's really funny about this movie is Jim is really good about finding payphones. Like I don't know if you traveled. I've traveled plenty to small towns. I've traveled a lot, and some towns still do, like small towns, they still do have payphones, but not all of them. It's not like they're easy to find. The payphones are like very few and rare in between, right? And if you do find one, they're usually broken. Like the phone has been yanked out and vandalized. So the fact that Jim is finding these perfectly functioning payphones everywhere he goes is, I think, hilarious. Okay, it's too coincidental. It's too easy. There aren't payphones available everywhere like they were like in the 90s and the 80s, like 90s, right? Everything's changed. You don't find payphones that easily. Granted, there are some out there, but like I said, the ones you find, they're usually vandalized. They're all broken. They don't work, you know? So I just find that funny that everywhere he goes, he's able to find a payphone and use it. So again, that's another weird like coincidence, inconsistency to like reality. But essentially, he calls Sarah, right? He calls Sarah to let him know, hey, look, this is what's happening. I got the boy. And Sarah was like freaking out. It's like, you can't just take the boy. And Jim is like, well, I had to because the cartel was there and they were gonna, give the boy to the cartel. He's gonna die. And Sarah actually says something smart that honestly would have solved the whole movie. She says, well, why didn't you come to me and tell me this information? I would have helped you. And I think they add that in there to cover a plot hole because it's a major plot hole. I mean, he could have easily gone to Sarah and this whole thing would have been resolved, right? But at the same time, he says to Sarah, look, the reason why I didn't do it was because I kind of made a deal with the mom. I told her that I would take him to Chicago and there's like money right involved. I don't think he says that, but for him, it's like his guilty conscience is what's pushing him, right, to take him to Chicago, and he needs the money. He wants the money, and that's when Sarah tells him, like, be careful because these people are serious. They will catch up to you and kill you, Jim, and they even burn down your house. And Jim is like, oh shit, they burned down my house. So he gets kind of pissed at the boy. He's like kind of blaming him. He's like, if it wasn't for you and your mom, crossing over into my land, like none of this would have happened, right? He's kind of pissed. And so they continue on. Jim is starting to have like second thoughts about the whole thing, and he's like, well, he's almost reconsidering, helping the boy, but he still does it. He's still on the way to Chicago. Let's see. They end up. I'm trying to, because I mean, so much happens. Oh yeah. So what happens while the cartel is on their way? They have this corrupt highway patrolman that stops Jim. and you don't realize at first that he's corrupt, but you kind of get the feeling that he is through. And they did a good job of like slowly letting you figure out that he's corrupt by little things. So this police patrol pulls him over. He tells him, "Hey, listen, you know, do you have any guns?" And Jim is like, "Yeah, I have a rifle underneath my in the back, and I have a handgun, a 45 or something underneath my seat." And he's like, I own, licenses to have and whatnot." So he's like, "All right, get out of the car." He puts them in his patrol vehicle, and the cop takes the guns, puts it in his trunk, and he tells Jim that he's gonna have a chat with the boy, but he never does. He just gets on the phone and starts talking to somebody. And then while Jim is waiting in the police car, there's a little radio call from his partner saying, "Hey, I'm tired of waiting for you. I'm just gonna go straight to lunch." So hearing that, and then seeing the patrolman not talk to the boy but talk on the phone the whole time, he's like really suspicious of what's going on. So the cop turns around, comes back, and he's like, "All right, sit in your truck." He takes his keys, and so, you know, Jim is like, he straight up confronts the cop. He's like, "How much are they paying you?" The cop is like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "How much are they paying you to like go against your duty?" Well, all this stuff. He's accusing the cop, and the cop gets mad. He's like, "Get in the truck!" He pulls out his gun. He's like, "Get in the fucking truck!" And so Jackson, who's in the car, the dog, it's in the truck, comes out of the front of the driver's seat and like bites the cop's hand. And that's where Jim comes in and starts attacking the cop, and there's like a fight going on now. And the dog is like biting the cop's leg. And so he's able to knock the gun off the cop's hand. They go to the ground. He starts punching the crap out of the cop. The cop goes for his what do you call it? The thing that shocks people, you know. Tries to pull that out, but he smacks that out of his hand, and then finally just punches him like 3 times, and the cop is like knocked out. And so he drags the cop to the car, to the patrol car, and he handcuffs him to the front of the grill. He gets his license back, and he gets in the truck, and they speed off like fast because he knows the cartel's like on their way. And while this is all happening, the stupid boy, because I gotta tell you, the kid's pretty dumb. Like he causes a lot of problems in some ways, but he's just a boy, so it's like it's what you expect, right? He gets out of the truck to see what's going on, but he drops the map, and the map is like, he's circled on the map like a red circle around Chicago. So he drops the map under the ground and they leave it there. He forgets about it. They drive off like like really in a hurry manner. And so they drive down off the ramp onto this area that's kind of far away. And Jim gets out of the truck and like to see what's going on. And the boy like is there with him. They're kind of like peeking off this like rocky area. And they're just looking. The cartel arrives magically really fast. And the one thing I'll say about in this movie, the cartel moves fast. They're just somehow they're able to catch. I mean, granted, yes, they spent a whole night in this town getting the car fixed and whatnot. Like not even fixed, it was patched up. But still, the fact that they were able to catch up to him so quickly is a little questionable. But essentially, yeah, they catch up, they're there, they show up at the patrol vehicle, and they see that the truck is gone. The Jefe is like, "Where are they? Where'd they go?" And the police guy's like, "I don't know. I don't know. They're not here. I don't know. They just left." And so they kill him. They kill the patrolman. They search the patrol car. They find the rifle and his guns. They take that with them and they leave. And they find the map on the ground. So they take that and they leave. And so the next thing that Jim does is he drives to the nearest town because he lost his guns. He drives to the nearest town to a gun shop, and somehow magically he's able to convince the gun owner to sell him guns without doing a background check and whatnot. Just like, "Hey, can you?" The guy's like, "I'll lose my license," and then Jim is like, "Look, I'm not a criminal. I got some bad people after me. You know, blah blah blah. There's like a bit of a connection there because Jim served in Vietnam, and the gun owner's brother served in Vietnam and died. So they talk a little bit. And so the gun owner is like, well, as long as it's for good reasons, and sells him the guns, which is like, right? That would never happen. Um, so he gets the guns. He actually goes around and buys clothes for the boy and like some food, and also finds a payphone. Magically finds a payphone, and he calls Sarah again to let him know, like, they talk, and Jim is like, Sarah convinces him like, hey, this is getting out of hand. Just stay put, and I'll come find you. And Jim is like, okay. But the funny part is, this is another inconsistency in the movie. Sarah is like, I'll come get you, and Jim is like, okay, but Jim never says where he's at. So it's like, how does she know where to go? So they hang up, and it's like they didn't even talk about where he is or where to meet up. It's just magically, okay, I'll come get you. But you don't even know where he is. So it's like, what? Okay, whatever. So another weird moment in the movie that's just kind of like very questionable. And so for the night, they go to a hotel. And so this time, Jim is like being smart. He's like, I'm not going to use my credit card, because he's just, at this point, he kind of figures out, oh, that's how they're tracking me. So he pays cash to the hotel. And it's funny because the hotel guy is like it's $39 for the room and an ID. And Jim shows him $100 bill and is like, "Is this good enough?" And the guy's like, "Okay, yeah, it's good enough." Again, he's just, and I don't think that would actually work in real life. I really seriously doubt that would work in real life, but you never know, I guess. Um, so they hide the truck behind the this motel, so it's not, so you can't see it easily, you can't spot it. And so they go to the room. The kid takes a bath and gets in the new clothes, and they're talking. They get a little closer. Like, talks about his wife dying by cancer, and it's just been a really hard life since she was gone. And at this point, you get a sense that Jim is pretty much at the end of his rope, like end of his life. Like he's done everything, and he's not necessarily looking for a new wife, nothing. He's just kind of at the end of the rope, and he's drinking. He's drinking. So he passes out. He's about to tell the boy, "Hey, listen, we're not going to go to Chicago," but he doesn't have the heart to say it. So I guess he's going to wait till morning or something. But he falls asleep, and so in the middle of the night, the dog wakes him up because the dog wants to go out potty. And so Jim walks out the door to let the dog out, and he spots the cartel in the main office. Again, another coincidence. Like, how did the cartel know that that's where he was? I don't know. Maybe they were just checking all the hotels and motels, and maybe, but it's just too much of a coincidence for me to actually believe it. But so they're at the hotel, and they're beating up the main office guy, and then Jim notices. He's like, "Holy shit, we gotta go!" So he calls the police, and he's like, "Look, there's men here. They're trying to rob. They're robbing the place. Send cops." And he just kind of like tells Miguel, "We gotta jump out this window and run the heck out of here." So they do. They jump out the window, the back window, right before the cartel breaks into the door, and is like, they see the room is empty, but they see the windows open, right? So they jump through the window. There's a forest out there, and out there, Jim and the boy are hiding, right? They're just hiding. And Hefe's out there like looking for them. He's like yelling, he's like, "I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna kill you." But you hear the police sirens in the background. So they're like, the other guys are like, we gotta go. So they go. Jim tells the boy to get in the truck and to wait for him there. He's got to go get his dog. And so he's looking for his dog, and he notices that his dog Jackson is barking and attacking, like, at one of the cartels. So one of the guys, the Jefe, pulls out his gun and shoots his dog. And at that point, this like destroys Jim. Jim is like, "Oh, you killed my dog!" Like, damn. And like, as an audience member, you're kind of like, it breaks your heart. It really does. It gets you like kind of really like teary about it. Um, So then the cartel leave, and then Jim gets his dog and puts him in the back of the truck, and they leave. But you could tell he's pissed. He's real at this moment. He is like livid mad. He's blaming the kid for everything that went wrong, for his house getting burned, his dog dying. And what I don't understand, here's another thing I don't understand in the movie. So they're in Texas, right? And this whole incident just happened, right? And Sarah is supposedly on her way. But for some reason, they drive to Oklahoma. And they drive to Oklahoma, they make a stop to bury the dog. And I'm just thinking, why did they leave? Why did they go from Texas to Oklahoma, make the effort of driving towards Chicago if he knew he wasn't going to go to Chicago? It's really weird. So for some reason, they drive to Oklahoma and they make a stop to bury the dog. And like I said, Jim is just pissed. He's just mad. He's like this. He's blaming the kid. This is like all your fault. You guys have never crossed my paths. This would have never happened. That type of stuff. And he talks about like the kid's like, well, the dog's in heaven now, and that really pisses off Jim even more. He's like, there is no heaven. That's just shit people say to tell you to make you feel better. So this is like a real a real point in his character arc where he like you get a sense of like what he believes and where he's at, with stuff, and how fed up he is with everything. The boy runs away because the boy is like, you're not gonna take me to Chicago. You're gonna straight up take the money and not take me to Chicago. Like that's messed up. So he like runs away. So Jim is like, oh, fuck. So he like goes after the boy. He finds the boy and he's like, look, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry that your mother died. I'm sorry, all this happened, but like it's the best thing for you. And right now, the best thing for everybody is if I just take you back to the border patrol people. And so the kid is like, they start talking, right? And Jim is like, thanks for helping me give my dog a proper burial. And then the kid says, I wonder if my mom will ever get a proper funeral. And so that's gets Jim thinking. And so he stops at a church, and they go to this church, this little like it looks like a little Baptist chapel, and they see a priest there, and they do like a little service for the boy. And the priest, after the whole thing goes up to Jim and is like, who is this, your boy? He's like, well, I knew his mother. And then the mother died, and I'm looking after the boy. And the priest guy says, oh, she must have had a lot of faith in you. And so those words really struck a chord in Jim, because after leaving the church, he has a change of heart. He's like, okay, let's go buy a new map, and we'll get you to Chicago. Just like that, he flips again, and he finds another payphone magically. He's really good at finding payphones. I mean, he's really good at finding payphones. There's no movie I've ever seen other than Matrix where they're really good at finding payphones. So he finds another payphone and he calls Sarah and is like, "Listen, actually, it's not a payphone. My mistake. It's actually just a regular. It's not a payphone, but it's an old phone at the church. But he does find a lot of payphones in the movie. Anyways, he calls Sarah and is like, "Listen, I'm not gonna go back. I'm gonna follow through with the plan to take him to Chicago. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it because it's like what I feel is the right thing to do." And so Sarah's like, if you go through with this, I can't help you. Like this is as far as I can go with all of this, like this I can't help you anymore. So he loses that friend essentially. That's what happens in movies. The good guy gets attacked by the bad guy so often, and as he goes, he loses things, he loses friends, and ultimately he finds it inside of him that he has the willpower, to do the right thing. So the movie does a good job of doing that, right? It hits all the marks story structure wise. It does a good job. But like I said, there's a lot of inconsistencies with some shots, a little bit of weird inconsistency, and too many coincidences in the movies that are not very explainable. And some things are just like straight up obvious that like like story structure wise, like the radiator getting hit and it slows him down. Like that's an obvious kind of like you're using that as a reason for the cartel to catch up to him. Like come on, couldn't think of anything better than that. But I mean, it's a good story. I'm not gonna take a big shit on it. It's decent. It's watchable. Like I said, you watch it one time, it moves so fast, and you're gonna miss all these inconsistencies. You're not even gonna think about it. But anyways, he goes through with taking him to Chicago. The cartel's waiting around in Arkansas, mind you. They're in Arkansas. It tells you in Arkansas, waiting, and they get a phone call because how? No, it wasn't a phone call. They're waiting, and one of the guys in the back seat sees the map. He's looking through it. He's thumbing through it, and he sees a big red circle around Chicago. So he shows the boss. The boss makes a phone call. He calls some gangsters, some gang members out in Chicago or something, and they're like, "Okay, we'll take care of it, no problem," right? So you're assuming they're gonna do something, right? So what ends up happening is all these gang members are set up on highways, keeping an eye for that blue truck, right? So Jim and the boy are on their way to Chicago, and I have to say though, here's the biggest inconsistency of them all. If the cartel's in Arkansas, right? And Jim is like really close to reaching Chicago. How in hell does the cartel catch up to Jim? It makes no sense, okay? It makes no sense. There's no way they had the time to drive from Arkansas to freaking Chicago in the time they had. It doesn't make any sense one like whatsoever. So that's another like weird mistake in the movie. But anyways, they're driving. The gang members call in the cartel. They're like, "Yeah, yeah, we spotted them, right?" And so out of nowhere, right? Like Jim's driving, he notices people like on top of these highways that are like with binoculars. So he kind of realizes, "Oh, I think they're watching me. I think they're telling the cartel where I'm at." So he pulls off an exit, and out of nowhere, the cartel guys are there. Like from Arkansas, they somehow make it to like close to Chicago. Somehow, they don't explain it. They're just magically there, right? It's like, oh, we see him, catch up to him. And so there's a scene where you have the blue truck where Jim is and the boy. They're like they see him coming from like another angle, right? It's like they're coming like this at each other. They're driving in their cars, and so Jim is like pushing on the gas to like speed and get across this like this crossway to get past them. And then the cartel's also speeding, like trying to like ram into them. But so what happens is, Jim hits the brakes, the cartel like flies through and they hit the brakes and they try to like turn around, they end up in a ditch. And so Jim turns the other way and goes that way. But like I said, how in hell did the cartel reach them so quickly when they were in freaking Arkansas? It makes no freaking sense how fast they're able to get there in time. Like it doesn't make any freaking sense one bit. Anyways, this is like the final big scene, right? So because he was like, pedal to the metal with the truck and it had like a patchwork on the radiator, the thing starts smoking. It's like right? And the cartel's like right behind them. Like they're not right behind them. They're stuck in a ditch, but all they have to do is turn around and they'll be right on their tail, right? So he's really worried. He knows he's got to pull over. So he pulls the truck over and he does like a slide on the road. And so the truck is like blocking the road. He pulls out the rifle with the scope and he waits there. He's just waiting for them, right? Miguel's freaked out. He's like, "We gotta go, we gotta go." And he's like, "They're gonna kill us." And Jim is like, "Not if I kill them first." So he's there waiting for them, right? So here comes the cartel, and Jim takes a shot, kills the driver, and Hefe is like, "Oh shit!" He takes the wheel, and then the marksman Jim, he takes another shot and pops a tire, and the truck goes flipping through the air like, just like, it's probably one of their most expensive scenes in the movie, which it should be. The climax in the movie should be the most expensive part of the movie, right? So that probably was a very expensive stunt, right? You got the SUV flipping over like this, and it lands like in a ditch area. So here's another part that makes no sense, right? You got Jim with the rifle with the scope, and he's aiming at them. For some reason, like the cartel, they like leave the car, and Jim had a perfect shot to kill them all as they're like leaving, as they're getting out of this car, like they're crawling out of it and whatever. Jim had a perfect shot to just take them out one by one, but for some reason he doesn't do it. So for some reason he allows the cartel to get out of the car and shoot at him with machine guns. It's like, dude, why didn't you shoot him? You have a scope. You're clearly good at shooting at stuff. You blew a tire. You killed the driver. I don't understand why you didn't shoot the rest of them while they were getting out of the car. I mean, it's perfect. They're crawling out of it, easy, easy. But he doesn't do it for some reason. So one of the Mexican guys takes out a machine gun, starts firing at the blue truck, and shoots the hell out of it, and it catches fire. And then so Jim is like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here." And so they run, and they run towards like a farm where there's a big barn. And the cartel, they compose themselves. The cartel people, they're like, "Oh, Hefe has a big blood mark here." They all have like cuts and stuff, but they're all like, "Okay, we're good, we're good." So they take their machine guns, they run after him towards the barn, and so the Jim finds a barn that's got like a window that he can see through, and he has like it's a perfect area to do like more sniping. And so as the cartel, they're kind of spread out. There's three of them. They're walking towards the barn. He's able to shoot one of them and kill him. So now there's two left. And so once he kills one of them, the cartel opens fire with their machine guns, like shooting the crap out of the barn. But the funniest thing is, when you look at the scene when they shoot the window, there's like 3, 4 bullets, and they're shooting machine guns. They're like, and all you see is like 4 bullets hit, and you're like, what? But there's like obviously they're using machine guns. There would be more bullet holes in the barn. For some reason there was only like 4 bullets hitting the window when the guys are like. So again, I don't know if that's just some weird failure in the movie. I don't know. They didn't have enough money in the budget to do it right. I don't know. But there's a lot of inconsistencies, and that was one of them. So Jim now is like, okay, he's like, I'm going to go down there and find a new position to snipe him. I need you to distract him and whatnot. And actually, before all this happened, there's a scene where uh, Jim is using his handgun to shoot, and he teaches Miguel how to shoot, essentially how to operate a gun, how to take out the bullets and whatnot. So that happened a little bit before this whole thing started. Um, Again, right? Perfect timing, right? Teach the boy how to shoot a gun, right? Comes in handy in the movie. But essentially, he tells the boy, count to 30 and shoot out the window to distract them. So that's what he does. Jim goes down to find a new spot. The boy shoots 2 shots out the window, counts to 30, right? And the cartel sees that he's still like, they think they're up there in the window. So they like as one of them finds a new position to like fire, Jim is there like ready to shoot him, and he hits the guy, right? And he goes down. And so there's only one left. It's the Jefe. And so the Jefe makes his way around the building, like the barn, and actually finds the kid. And the kid was like trying to hide and crawl in the hay, but for some reason, like a dumbass, he like falls, like just he just falls, like it doesn't make any sense, and like he just reveals himself, like like a complete dumbass. And so Hefe takes the kid and has a gun to his head, and they're outside, and he's calling out the Jim to come out, drop his gun, and whatnot. And so he's hiding behind the kid. He's got the gun to the head. Again, it's one of those movies where the bad guy could have won if he didn't didn't have a whole bad guy speech. He had to have his bad guy speech, and that's what messed up the whole thing. He could have won. He could have killed Jim. He could have killed the boy. But no, he had to have his bad guy speech, and that's what tripped him up. So Hefe's there with the boy. Jim puts down his gun, and Hefe's like, I gotta have my bad guy speech. I gotta tell you all about my life and how hard it was. And when I was a kid, I was forced to be a soldier. Your typical bad guy speech, which is like so irritating because he literally could have won. All he had to do was shoot Jim, shoot the boy, and he was on his way. But no, he had to have his bad guy speech. Not just have a bad guy speech, he had to literally walk up to Jim so they're face to face, right? Where Jim could like attack him, right? So what happens is he's having his bad guy speech, and Jim looks at the boy. He's like, he gives him like an eye, like, you know what to do. You know what to do, right? Like somehow the boy knows what to do, right? Like throughout the movie, he's being so dumb. He even falls over to reveal himself like an idiot to the bad guy. But in this moment, he knows exactly what to do, like a genius. So the Jefe is like, all right, boy, you're gonna have your first kill. I'm gonna turn you into a cartel soldier. And so he like puts the gun in the boy's hand. He's like, you're gonna shoot him. You're gonna kill him. And Jim gives him a look. He's like, yeah, do it. And somehow the boy knows that, to push the button that releases the ammo, and the ammo drops, right? And so Jefe shoots one bullet, right? But for some reason, there's a struggle. I don't know if the boy hits him or something. But they're like the gun fires off to the side. And it's not clear if it hits Jim or not. You do hear a thud sound, but you don't see any blood. You don't There's no blood, there's no like, my arm. You just hear a thud, and Jim just continues on like normal. And throughout them fighting, they're fist fighting, you don't see any blood. So you don't see that he's shot. So this is like a confusing moment because like you're just like, did he get shot? Did he not get shot? Like I don't know. And then as they're fighting, Hefe pulls out the little knife that he has that we saw earlier, and he like stabs him like 3 times, like in the kidney, pretty much. And that doesn't do anything to Jim. He's still like, whatever. He's still like punching Hefe, and pretty much there's a moment where they're like, Hefe has a knife at his like to his face, and he's holding the knife, and the boy picks up the gun and reloads it and points the gun to Hefe, and Hefe is like, "Do it, kill me, revenge me," because I guess like deep down, like if the boy, which doesn't really make sense, but if the boy kills Hefe, the boy loses his innocence, and that way Hefe wins, which is like, nah, I'm not buying that. But it's a movie. So the Hefe's like, yeah, do it, kill me, lose your innocence. And Jim is like, no, no, don't do it. Don't listen to him. And so Jim is like, give me the gun, right? While he's holding the knife. And so Jim grabs the gun and pushes Hefe to the side and shoots him in the stomach, right? And so Hefe's like, he gets shot in the stomach. He falls down, and he's just like, at this point, right? So before, Jim is like, all right, Miguel, go walk over there. I don't want you to see this, because he's going to kill him or something, right? So before Jim can like even point the gun at Hefe or whatever, he is pointing the gun, but before you can pull the trigger, Hefe's like, wait, wait. He pulls out the little gold star that he stole from his house, and he's like, here, take this. So it's kind of like a weird, I don't know. It's a weird like, here you go. Like I stole this from you. You can have it back because you're the better man, I guess. Or I don't know. Like I respect you for for killing me. But here's your gold star back. So Jim takes it, and then he has like a thought. He's like, I'm not gonna kill you. What I'm gonna do is unload the gun, leave one bullet for you, and he puts the gun in front of Hefe and turns it his way, and he's like, now you have a choice. Which in my mind, I'm like, you idiot. You're gonna give him the gun with one bullet. He's just gonna pick it up and shoot you, because that's what would happen in real life. But in the movie, Hefe's like, Jim walks away and you hear a gunshot. So I guess apparently Hefe killed himself, which again, very unrealistic. If you give a cartel guy a gun that's got a bullet in it, you think he's gonna kill himself? That's not gonna happen. He's gonna freaking shoot you in the back of the head. Like that's realistic. So he kills himself, and then Jim, they walk out the barn, and as they're walking, there's a truck that drives by, and they get a lift from the truck driver, right? And now they're in Chicago, and so so now they're in Chicago, and even though we don't know if Jim is shot, we know he's been stabbed 3 times, but he's like, how is he still alive? Like at no point did Miguel go, hey, let's go to the hospital. You saved my life. Let me save your life. No, that never comes up in a conversation. There's no scene where he's like, let's save your life now because you saved mine. No, it's, I'm just going to die. So Jim takes the boy to the house in Chicago, to his family. They're all happy to see him. Jim disappears. He gets on a bus and he pretty much faints. We don't know if he dies or not. So the ending is a bit of a double-edged sword. There's a happy ending where the boy gets the family, but Jim, like, he is either dead or is going to die. He lost his dog. He lost his house. They burnt the cartel money because it was cartel money. They didn't want anything to do with it. Miguel didn't even want it, so they burn it. So he's got no money. His house is burnt. His wife died of cancer. The cartel shot his dog. It's like he lost everything. It's such a sad, fucked up ending. Like, this is not a happy ending. This guy saved this boy's life and destroyed his, like, in the making. If the Miguel is such a dumbass, he doesn't even know, like, yeah, okay, thanks for getting me here. Bye. Go die. It's like, what kind of fucked up ending is that? The ending is so fucked up. And it ends with like happy music, and you're just like, this is fucked up. This is not a good ending. This is a horrible ending, for like for a character arc. Like, so he supposedly, you know is getting better as a human being. He stops drinking. He doesn't take the cartel money. He saves this boy's life, but he loses everything in the process. Give me a break. This is the shittiest ending to any movie I've ever seen in my life. Okay. So bad. Such a bad ending. In the meantime, we never hear from Sarah. I bet Sarah's worried sick about him. Doesn't call her, nothing. He's just like, oh, I'm just going to die now. I'm just going to die because, I lost everything to this fucking boy. I'm just going to die now. It's like, give me a break. Worst ending of any movie I've ever seen in my life. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword ending. The kid makes it home. Freaking hero of the movie dies, loses everything. It's not a happy life for him at all. It just gets worse and worse for him, and it never gets better. Um, so there you go. There's the whole movie for you. There's just, again, the way I see it is like, it's like, if you watch it and things happen so fast that it doesn't really give you time to think about these things. But me being a filmmaker and a screenwriter, this is all I look at, and I'm just like, wow, that was a really shitty ending. The inconsistencies, the coincidences, it's too unrealistic. uh like, some of the stuff, some of the shots where it's like there's the boy with the dog with the leash, and then no leash, and then with the leash, and then no leash, like somehow the leash is just magically appearing, disappearing. I don't know how they could mess that up. It's such a little thing, but to me it stands out. It's very distracting, and stuff like, for example, the mom, which gets cut in the leg, her pants rolled up, and then the next shot her pants are down. Like, that stuff drives me nuts as a filmmaker. The inconsistencies like that, it just drives me nuts. So the fact that it's a number one movie, it makes sense to me because it story wise, it hits all the marks. It does have very emotional moments. It does have a message for the public. It's like, hey, I wish the government would get their shit together about the border, and some things are unfair. Yeah, okay, message there, but I'm telling you, the ending's pretty fucked up. It ends like with happy music, but he just like gets on a bus and dies. He loses everything. Everything. He loses everything and ends up with no money. It is the worst ending. And the Hefe killing himself is just, it's too unbelievable. He would never do that. Never in a million years would he do that. It just doesn't fly, you know. Um but is it a decent movie? Yeah, it's a decent movie. You can watch it. It's enjoyable. It's entertaining. It has a good part. It's got some good messages, but like I said, the fact that he like pretty much gave up his life for this boy is not a good message, in my opinion. Not a good message at all. But there is good things that are relatable to Americans. Like, this guy is about to lose his house. He's worked all his life. He's paid taxes. He's a straight shooter. He's about to lose everything. It's unfair. So a lot of Americans can really relate to that, especially as a veteran. And so there's that. And the whole border thing with illegals, there's that people can really connect with. But like I said, the story itself doesn't make any fucking sense one bit. I'm sorry. Story structure wise, it makes sense, but realistically, psychologically, it doesn't make sense. Like one bit, not one bit does it make sense. So that's why it does make for a good, decent, action, entertaining, heartfelt movie. But does it really make sense? No, it doesn't really make sense, not one bit. Um, it does remind me the way it's shot. It's not very cinematic. It's shot very safe. It's shot very cookie cutter. It reminds me of an episode from Breaking Bad. The way it's shot, it's not shot. I would say it's kind of shot like a movie, but it's shot more like a made for TV movie. Like, like somebody would make in today's age. We have all the technology today to make things look cinematic. But if you ask me, that movie isn't very cinematic. It's just very cookie cutter, and it's very television, very TV made for TV kind of movie. Which surprisingly, it was like a number one box office hit, and I think it's number one in Netflix. But like I said, it's not a it's not a great movie, not one bit. I think what happens is the pacing of the movie is so fast that it doesn't really allow you to think about these things, and you don't see the inconsistencies. You don't question the payphones, like how is he able to find all these payphones like magically. Like it doesn't add up in my head. It's too, they try to make it realistic, but at the same time it's not really. Movies aren't supposed to be real, right? But if you're going to make a movie that looks and feels like it's supposed to be like realistic to life, it misses its mark for sure. Um, but like I said, it's a entertaining movie. It's a decent entertaining movie. Um, Liam carries the whole entire movie on his back. The guy playing Hefe does a good job, but in my opinion, yeah, Liam carries that entire movie. He's a great actor. No matter what shitty B movie action movie he does, he will carry the whole movie on his back for sure. He's a great actor. Um, and he did a good job acting. He did good. He did really good. I mean, no, there's no complaints there at all. But what I do have complaints is the story, the psychological aspects of it, how unrealistic it is. It just, the choices. It's kind of unbelievable. The how many coincidences are there that are just kind of like, you know, what up, Christoph Horvath? What's it going? I just got done ripping apart the Marksman. Like I said, it's decent. It's watchable. It's on Netflix. It's worth a watch. But I don't know. Hopefully, I didn't ruin it for you, pointing out these inconsistencies and how dumb the storyline is. But like I said, structurally, the script is sound. They hit all the marks. The editing is good. It's got a nice pace to it. There's some really heartwarming moments. There's some heart wrenching moments. There's some terrifying moments with the cartel. And so it's a roller coaster ride for sure. They did a good job setting up the movie. They did a good job, you know, having empathy and sympathy for the main character in the beginning. Um, all the setups are good. All the plot points are good. All the parts where the bad guys attack are good. All the parts where things are revealed are good. Like it's a good structurally made script. It's solid, except for some of the stuff like towards the end. That's just like they could have done a better job at with the ending there. They could have done something better. I mean, I think I know what they were going for, but I didn't buy it. You know, it just didn't. It just wasn't enough. Even though they do hint, excuse me, that's the spirit director trying to choke me. No, no. Even though they do a good job giving you hints and clues into the mind of Hefe, like for example, there's two moments. There's a moment where he's in Arizona in suburbia, and there's like a cartel house, right, that they're all hiding in. Where he looks out the window and he sees a kid playing with like his father, and he's got a moment there. He's like, An audience, you're like, why is he looking at that? And then he's got another moment where he's in a small town and he sees this beautiful woman with this perfect guy and this like amazing car, and he's just like staring at them, and you're just like, and what it adds up to is, at the end when he has his big bad guy speech, which is stupid. Like I said, he could have just killed Jim and killed the boy and be done with it, but no, he doesn't do that. Um, he's got to have his speech, right? And then that's what gets him, right? Having a speech gives the hero time to like get in there and stop the bad guy, right? So stupid. But anyways, the movie does I see what the writers are trying to do. He's trying to like, he's killing people left and right. He's a horrible person, and so he kind of wishes that he wasn't this monster, right? Like he was forced to become this monster. He wishes he had a family. Is kind of what I got from that. But like I said, I don't buy it. If you give a cartel member a gun with a bullet in it and you expect him to kill himself, that's not how it's going to work. He's going to turn around and shoot you. Like it's just plain as simple as that. Um, the fact that he's been killing all these people and suddenly now the bad guy decides, you know what? I'm a horrible person. I'm just going to kill myself. Like, give me a break. I didn't buy it one bit. Didn't buy it one bit. But anyways, it's a big cheese factory. In a way it is. But like I said, for most folks it's enjoyable. Most folks will enjoy it. It's a typical action Liam Neeson movie, but to me there was too many problems. There was too many problems for me to believe the story, and too many inconsistencies with the shots. Like the biggest one for me that stands out, and I've been repeating myself, is the shot where the boy's walking the dog. One shot is him with the leash, one shot is him without the leash, one shot it goes back to the leash, and it goes back to him without the leash. And you're just like, what is the deal with the leash? Why does it disappear, appear, disappear? You don't see it in his pocket. You don't see it anywhere. It's just like, what's going on with the whole leash thing? So that really it's just I know it's stupid, but like I said, me being a filmmaker and a screenwriter and all this, like that bothers me so much. You do not understand how much that bothers me. Does it deserve to be number one? No, not really. I just think people, like I said, it has such a fast pace that it goes right over their heads. They don't notice it. So, anyways, watch it. Watch it. Give it a watch. See what you think. You might like it. I mean, it's enjoyable. I'm not saying it's not enjoyable. Like I said, it's a roller coaster ride. But anyways, I'll leave it at that. Christoph, my friend, how are you doing tonight? You having a good evening? So the next movie I want to review, which I've already seen, which I thought was pretty fantastic, is what's his name? Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Not bad. At first, I was like questioning it. I was like, oh, it's like what? There's like some weird. love triangle happening with the brothers that I thought was kind of weird, but okay, I'll let it fly. It didn't ruin the movie. I just thought it was weird, but it did add to the character, so I did appreciate that. But yeah, the Frankenstein movie. I think it's the next movie I'm gonna do a review on, because I think it stands out as a very unique Frankenstein movie, like ever created. And that's just the genius of Guillermo del Toro. Is that his name? Did I say it right? That pretty fantastic director that does a lot of fantastical stuff. He does a really good job with like creating creatures and things like that. That's like his main thing, right? So I think Frankenstein will be the next movie I do as a review. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the monster itself, the spin that he does with that. It was really good. It's genius what he does. It's truly genius, his work with Frankenstein. Anyways, I think I'll leave it at that. So for those who joined me, I appreciate it as always. I'm building up the channel to the 1,000 subscribers mark for the year. That was my goal I gave myself for the year. And as a promise to all of you, I said I would release my 17th independent feature film called Stray Kids, which oddly enough is very similar to this movie, but not as good. Because I didn't have the budget and I didn't have Liam Neeson to star in it. But yeah, I'll release my movie Stray Kids once I hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. It'll be for free. You can watch it, and I hope you do. And I hope to get some feedback and see what you think. It took me 15 years to make, so it's one of those independent movies. Anyways, I want to wish you a good night, and here in a couple days, I will be doing a live for the Frankenstein review, which will be a good one because I didn't see any errors in Frankenstein. I didn't see any consistencies. I didn't see any like pure coincidences type things, that are just like unbelievable, really solid. When it comes to making movies, man, does that guy know how to make movies and be a storyteller? Man, does he know how to do it? All right, folks, I'll leave it there. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the subscribers and all that. If you're new to the channel, my name is Lasso. I'm Oklahoma's India Tour award winning filmmaker, actor, artist, musician, all the above. It's Lasso's Passions. That's what I call the channel. It's all about my passions and encouraging others to follow their passions as well. It's not easy sometimes because life can get in the way. We got responsibilities, but I truly believe it's our true passions that really ignite our souls. We have callings, we have God gives us these creativities, and these gifts to put out there for other people to enjoy and for you to grow as a person. And I truly believe it's through creativity that we stay young, that we practice different parts of our brain. We just things that I believe and stuff that I read, about what creativity can do for you. Anyways, I'll leave it there. So you folks have a good night, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Peace out.